Thank you for your patience. My name is William Keck. Like all of you, I'm a huge Ewing fan. I was here last year. How many of you were here at the Southfork Experience last year? Yes. And next year too, I love that. Yes, let's all come back next year. So in a lot of ways, this year's Southfork Experience is even more exciting. There's a bunch of new people who I've never met, and hopefully you'll get a chance to meet them, including the Knots Landing ladies. We have actually 6 panels planned this weekend, and there's something special and unique about each one. But this one is one of my favorites today because we had to wait 21 years after Dallas left the air to see the Ewings again. There were a couple movies that were on that were fun to watch, but to have them all back together at Southfork was really something special, especially since we got to see Larry in his final couple of years playing one of our favorite characters of all time, J.R. Ewing. Let's hear it for Larry right now. So let's meet him. Let's bring him out. She is the First Lady of the Manor. She played Sue Ellen Ewing, Miss Linda Gray. Well, here he is. He inherited everything from Miss Ellie. Patrick Duffy, Bobby Ewing. The Ewing heirs are back together again. Josh told me for the first time in 10 years they have not seen each other until right this minute, actually, just a little while ago. He played John Ross Ewing III, Josh Henderson. And Christopher Ewing is back at Southfork, Jesse Metcalfe. So, this is wild. Let me ask about that first. When's the last time you actually saw each other?
We saw each other last year at an event in Florida. We had a golf tournament together.
Oh, you did? Okay, all right.
But before that, it had been a little while.
Yeah, it had been a minute, for sure.
So take me back, all of you, to the first time, the first day of filming on the Reboot. What was it like for you guys being back there with Larry, with a new crew? Tell us about that.
Excitement.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. I remember we had been on hiatus for 20 years.
Yeah, it's too long.
Kind of shocking. Yeah. But Patrick and Larry and I saw each other all the time. And so, for the 3 of us, I remember the day we got the call about the Reboot, saying, we wanted to have the 3 of us. And the 3 of us reunion, that was like,
huge.
That was so exciting.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what did it mean to Larry to get to play this character? Was this something he talked to you about? I'd really like to do one more run as JR.
If he were here, he would just say it's the money.
Yes.
But he did say on repeated occasions, he would say, "My God, Patrick, look at me, I'm 80 years old and I'm still working." And he was so full of appreciation.
Yeah.
And to be able to play that character again was just, to him, very significant. Especially at that point in his life, I think he knew what the writing on the wall was, and to be able to have that be his epitaph was extremely important for him. And he couldn't remember whose son was whose. Literally, the first, he had a party at his condo in Los Angeles, and he kept coming up to me and going, "Now, which one's my son?" and I would tell him, and then on the set, every once in a while I'd go, "That one, right?" Anyway, he had a great time, and it was really meaningful.
Yeah.
But it was the role that he was put on the planet to play.
Absolutely.
I think he did I Dream of Jeannie.
Well, we have gathered some clips that we're anxious to show everybody here, and there was a lot about the new Dallas that had changed, but there were certain moments that really felt like the classic Dallas we all know and love, and we love the extension as well. I chose a few clips, and we want to talk about them after we see these. So let's begin with the first time that JR returned to Southfork, and he got to see Brother Bobby, but even more significantly, he got to see Cliff Barnes after a very, very long separation. So let's have a look at the first clip.
Much of a welcoming party. Joan Rose, get the rest of my bags.
Oh, I don't know. Try a few more because it's not working.
Well, what have we here?
JR, I didn't think you were coming till later this afternoon.
Well, you're looking pretty spry for all you've been through, old fella. Cliff Barnes, remember me?
Time has not been kind to that face. But I do recall the smell of brimstone and crazy. Bobby, what the hell's going on here?
Well, Cliff just came back to town, so he stopped by to say hello.
Yeah, I was trying to get your brother to sell me Southfork, you know, right some of the wrongs the Ewings caused my family.
Well, if you think you got a shot at that, you need a doctor more than I do.
JR, I already turned him down.
That's right. Southfork has already been sold to a conservancy.
That's what I heard, yeah. Well, you're taking that awful well, JR.
But I'm a new man. You ought to try that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for hearing me out, Bobby. I hope I made my intentions good and clear. And if you still got a conscience, you'll call me. And if you are real nice, maybe Bobby will let you spend the rest of your miserable days right here on Southfork.
I'll be there when they put you in the ground bars. Listen close. I'll be the one dancing on the dirt overhead.
Being in that room, filming that scene with those two gentlemen, what was it like to go back in time, yet be present in 2012 with the three of you in the same dynamic?
The dynamic was the same, but the nice thing was the way that those scenes were written acknowledged the passage of time. And the fact that, you know, all of those characters progressed for 20 years. You know, Cliff Barnes was not the Cliff Barnes that we lost and left when the show was canceled the first time. You know, Bobby was an older person, much older. He wasn't the firebrand that he was. Larry was pretty much the same, J.O.
Yeah.
You know, but that was the important part. The linchpin of our show was that character never changes. You know, his circumstances change, but his attack in how he deals with everything was always the same. And I think that's why people wanted to watch the show. They wanted to watch how he responded to new intrusions into his life. And it was wonderful to watch. Well, first of all, it was wonderful to be in the room, you know, to be part of that triumvirate at that moment. And the other thing that was interesting is whenever Larry, myself, Linda, and Kenny, and Steve, you know, when he would make an appearance on the show, were in a scene together, the crew and the director were also just sort of reverently watching.
Right.
You know, and you never knew whether, did I improve that much as an actor, or are they just stunned to see that we're still alive? But it was interesting because there was a sort of a stamp of you've really become a piece of American television history, you know, and everybody had that attitude when they were, except actors included. We were really honored to have been asked to come back and do the show.
Well, like you said, Patrick, 20 years have passed. I want to ask all of you, did you, in your mind, as an actress, as actors, fill in the blanks? Did you sort of think what happened to Sue Ellen over the last 20 years to make her who she is today? And with you guys, I want to ask when we get to you if you went back and watched and kind of tried to get a backstory for John, Ross, and Christopher.
Yes, I did a lot of thinking, and my first, it was not a question, it was really a non-negotiable. I said, she can't drink anymore.
Yeah.
I said, that's done, we're done. I did it, I thought I did it well as an actor, and I said,
Brilliant.
I'm finished.
How did that go for you?
Well, that wasn't received very well. They said, they kind of patted me on the shoulder and said, oh, but darling, you do it so well. And I was like, then I turned into my feisty self, and the feisty self didn't do it. I didn't want to do it. I said, no. I said, she's different, she's changed. And I came up, you could see their eyes spinning around. It's like, well, then what the hell are we gonna do with her? And so I said, And that's why I had thought during these 20 years. I said, why don't you run her for governor of the state of Texas?
I love that. I thought that was great.
And they, oddly enough, they said, great idea. And I was like stunned. And but then what happened is that they came to me after, and they said, well, you've got to lose. I said, I have to lose. I'm excited to be governor of Texas. And they said, well, the capital is in Austin, and we're filming a show called Dallas. And you need to be here, we can't fly you back and back and back and back. So I had to acquiesce and give my condolence speech.
Well, we're going to look a little bit about the storyline in just a second, but Patrick, did you, maybe you and Brenda, did you kind of talk about how Bobby and Ann met and kind of fill in the blanks in Bobby's 20 years?
The scripts filled in the blanks for that. I mean, they go through that and they lay a lot of pipe, is what they call it, and made that explanation. And it was just important to me to be 20 years older. They fudged. I was celebrating my 60th birthday, and I was actually 65. But Hollywood, that's what it is. But we had all of that to build on of 13 years of experience. These two guys had to come in, and just pretend, to know what the intro was, because they had nothing to build on. You couldn't watch old episodes of Dallas and see Christopher and John Ross, in diapers. And now, I think I probably, because one of them still wore diapers.
Yeah, right. Well, I guess the biggest thing would have been Miss Ellie's death. Did you think about how that would have changed Bobby Ewing and JR?
Well, yeah, I think in totally different ways. Bobby was not Mama's boy, but I think pretty much Mama's favorite and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so he would be affected differently than JR. I think I don't get much into the backstory and the motivation, in the sense of if it feels right, then it feels right.
Right.
And God only knows what Larry, as a character of JR was doing, but whatever he was thinking came out on camera all the time. So, good on him.
Yeah.
And for me, it was, Mama's gone.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Yeah. And they had a cemetery there, so we got to actually see a proper.
That was the most used cemetery.
Yeah.
We buried everybody but Prince the dog.
I'll tell you quickly. I don't want to boast here, but I got to know the executive producer Cynthia, and I asked when they were developing the show. I said, "So you could acknowledge Clayton and Jock and Miss Ellie." And she said, "Yeah, we'll show their cemetery." I said, "Well, there's a cemetery that's been established at Southfork," and she didn't know. So that they rewrote it so that you guys didn't have a long walk. You could just walk right over there and pay your respects. Guys, tell me how you found adult John Ross and Christopher. Did you go back?
The biggest thing about Christopher was that he was adopted.
Yeah.
So I kind of built a character around the idea of Christopher never feeling like he really belonged and never feeling like he was really good enough. That, might have spilled over sometimes into real life, but that was the soul of the character.
What do you mean it spilled over into real life? How so? What would you say about that?
I personally feel that way in a lot of ways within the industry too. Like I'm just constantly trying to prove to people that I'm a good actor.
Yeah, the business does that to us. It tends to. Josh, what about you?
Well, I just knew that there was going to be big shoes to fill. J.R. Ewing being essentially the most iconic television character of all time. How do I? Second to Uncle Bobby. Third to Mama. But no, it was. I was just full of excitement. My family were big fans of Dallas, the original, and when I heard it was coming back, I remember hearing it was coming back. I was like, I hope I get to audition. And then when I auditioned, I read for, I don't know if you did, but I read for Cynthia Cedric, my first audition, which was the writer, and I was super nervous, and I was like, hey, what is J.R. Ewing's son, right? Like, what do I do here? And right when I walked out, I go, okay, I kind of blacked out through the whole audition, and I got a phone call before I even got to my car from my agent, like, this has to be news. And sure enough, they're like, you're tested for the show. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, oh, wait, I actually have to really figure out this character. And like, how do I, like, who is this guy? And I just kind of went with it. I kind of went with, you know, me being from Texas, like what maybe a Texas oil kid, you know, coming up into this crazy legacy family. And I just tried to show up and do my best. And we had a ton of fun playing off of each other. You know, the whole, that thing was great. I mean, that was we had some really, really good stuff together. We all had great stuff together. So it was just, I think I just showed up and tried to take on the spirit of what the Ewings are and the show of Dallas was, and that's kind of all I had to go with.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Josh said. I remember being really nervous too, and feeling a lot of pressure, you know, because it's just such an iconic legacy show, really the biggest show of its time, and you know, we all wanted to do it justice.
Yeah, and you sure did. Do you remember the first time you met Larry?
Yeah. The first time I met who?
Larry, Mr. Hagman. The first time you met him on set.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, well, he had us over. Yeah, Patrick mentioned the party that had his condo. That was like a total trip because Larry had all these antiques and like armor in his place and all this, you know, he's showing us this, showing us that, and recounting all these stories, you know, from earlier days when you guys used to hang out and stuff. That was a surreal moment. That really was.
We all watched the sunset together. What was the thing gong ball. This is the thing that he probably usually did naked, but luckily for us, he didn't do it naked that time. But we all watched the sunset and said gong bong together.
Yeah. Well, then you mentioned Sue Ellen losing the election, which didn't sit so well with her. So that's our next clip. We're going to look at the aftermath of Sue Ellen getting the results.
Failure, but no.
John Ross.
What about you, John Ross? Can you comment?
All the people who rallied around me, who believed that I stood for something principled, I let them down. I let myself down.
This is all my fault. You wouldn't be in this mess if you didn't bribe that guy to get me out of jail.
And I'd do it again if I had to.
Darling, I'm going to say this only once, and I'll deny it the minute I leave this room. But the best decision you ever made was the day you walked away from me. In the past 20 years, you started your own foundation. You ran for governor. And you beat the bottle. You can beat this, too.
The facts remain that in the last 48 hours, I have lost my credibility. My foundation has lost 12 donors. Oh, and to top it all off, the state attorney wants to indict me on charges of bribery. So add jail to my long list of post-JR accomplishments.
Mama, we will beat this, okay?
Give me a couple of days to work the state attorney. I'll make sure that twit never presses charges.
Thank you. Thank you both. But I broke the law. And I wouldn't learn my lesson if I tried to squirm out of this.
That's why you have me, darling. I never learned my lesson.
Linda, did you and Larry, if you could speak, play this as if they were still desperately in love with each other?
I think that was a constant. They were always in love with each other. Always, even though bad things happened on both sides. So, yeah, I think that was the foundation for their relationship.
Would you have wanted them to actually be a couple again, or was this right for where she had found herself at this stage in her life? Because it was going in that direction. He was trying to win her back, it seemed like.
Yeah, good luck. No, I think that the writers did a very good job of dealing with that relationship, and you know, I think it was time. That was the time that was necessary.
Josh, how did Larry or JR help you discover who John Ross was? Did you borrow some things from him? Did he actually talk to you about who this guy would be?
I mean, I did watch the first few seasons to kind of get an idea of who he was and the character and the dynamics of the family and everything. But, you know, I want to say Larry kind of just trusted in a way, and I had to gain that trust, but he didn't really ever come in and be like, this is what you would do, and this is how you're going to do things, and he just kind of let me run with it, and I think because he was so trusting, it helped me be confident in what we were doing and what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Jesse, so this is your big clip. 25 years after Victoria, principal, left Dallas, fans finally got closure with the Pam Ewing storyline, even if it wasn't maybe the closure that they were necessarily hoping for. But it allowed you to play some really, really strong scenes. So what we're going to look at next is when Christopher finally learned that his mom had passed.
This is what you came for. It's your mother's will. It passes on her shares and Barnes Global to you. Your mother wrote this a few days before she died. She loved you, and she fought to get better so that she could return home to you. Her biggest regret was that she never made it back to Dallas.
I'm sorry about your mother.
Thanks, Dad.
Welcome home. You okay, Chris?
Yeah, I'm good.
What Cliff did is unforgivable.
To both of you.
Thank you, Sue Ellen, but I mourned Pamela long ago.
I'm just glad I finally know the truth. You know, I spent the whole plane ride back thinking about it. Now I just want to know what's next.
Well done, Jesse. Very well done. So I'll ask you the same thing. Did you go back and watch some of who this Pamela person was that had been gone for so long?
Yeah, I went back and watched quite a few episodes, actually.
Do you remember which ones? What did you choose to watch?
I mean, I watched like the first probably 3 seasons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then went back periodically and watched some episodes from later seasons. I don't necessarily know how it informed. I mean, the way I work as an actor is I use a lot of like experiences from my own life. You know, I use a lot of like substitution, so I can sort of like plug into any situation without having to fully understand the reality of that situation or the reality of the character. But I love that Christopher had a lot of like deep emotional scenes, and he had like some trauma, and he had a hole to fill, and I just think it really informed a lot of the relationships, and I mean, there was so many incredible dramatic scenes on the show. There really were. I mean, it was a fun show. Yeah.
It was a big mystery for a while whether she was going to reappear, and you may have told.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You may have told a reporter who may or may not have been me.
Really?
That you were looking forward to meeting her. That you hoped it would happen.
Yeah.
Did you think that was actually going to happen? Or did
I thought it was going to happen.
You did.
Yeah, I thought she was going to come back to the show. I know that Patrick always told me that there was no chance she was going to come back to the show. But I didn't really believe him, you know, because I was like, why wouldn't you want to come back to the show? This is awesome, you know?
Patrick, what would you like to add to that?
It wasn't my choice that she had to come back to the show, because I knew she didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
And that was her choice. It was her choice to leave, and she had started her whole second phase or third or whatever phase of her life was, which was business and establishing, you know, her own identity and all that. And she just wasn't going to come back.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, you know, we had a new wife for Bobby.
It cast a beautiful person.
Which was wonderful.
Yeah.
And it filled that void. You know, it filled that void because she was everything that Bobby needed at that time, the same way that Pam was everything he needed in the first incarnation. So there was no really room for her to come back, nor did she want to come back. So that's why I was confident to be able to tell him, no, there's no way.
It's just not happening. So like we heard from Bobby there, you had made peace with the fact that she was gone and not coming back. Yeah, okay. What about you? Did you all make peace with that? Were you fine with Pam and Bobby? Yeah, as I read online. But didn't...
There's only one magic shower at Ewing.
Jesse and Jess, we have a panel with you guys coming up tomorrow, and I actually have a couple of Desperate Housewives clips just because you share that in common. Did you get to know Brenda at all, Brenda Strong, before you?
Yeah, absolutely. Brenda Strong's amazing. She was a great addition to the reboot, that's for sure. And I love what Patrick just said about sort of like, you know, if you have multiple wives, right, as a man, like your wife earlier in your life is probably totally different than you know, the person you choose later in your life, you know? And I just loved her strength in the show. I love the shotgun scene, you know, where someone was trying to break into to Southfork, you know, she came down with a shotgun. Like, that was an awesome scene. Yeah.
That's why Bobby stayed true.
Okay, Barry Corbin is here this weekend. He'll be with us on the panel on Sunday. And he, of course, played the sheriff in the original Dallas, but it was great they brought him back to play the attorney who read JR's last will and testament. And we're going to watch that scene next.
I, John Ross Ewing II of Dallas in the state of Texas, being of sound mind, hereby declare that this is my last will and testament, and revoke all other wills and codicils previously made by me. I bequeath my entire collection of boots to my brother Bobby, on the condition that he take better care of the damn things than he takes care of his own. To my brother Gary, I leave my prized bottle of scotch. To my nephew Christopher, I leave my copy of The Prince by Machiavelli. Use it, because being smart and sneaky is an unbeatable combination. To my sister-in-law, Anne, I leave my favorite dove hunting gun. Unless she is the reason you're reading this will. To my ex-wife, Sue Ellen Ewing, I leave my heart, because she's the only woman I ever loved. I also leave her half of my rights to the oil under Southfork. The other half I leave to my son, John Ross. The best man I know, and he got that way with very little help from me. Miss Ellie Ewing gave orders that this envelope was not to be opened until after JR's passing. So here we are today. My son JR was many things, but he was not a rancher. That's why I left my beloved Southfork to Bobby. But I hope you understand, Bobby, that JR's sin should not be visited upon my grandson, John Ross. That is why I bequeath half the title of Southfork to him.
The writers did a beautiful, beautiful job. It sounded like Larry, actually recording those lines, I thought. Linda,
Yes.
You had kind of an emotional reaction when you heard what JR was expressing there.
Yes, yeah, I leave my heart. Like, oh my God. I mean, that was the sweetest thing JR ever said. To Sue Ellen. Yeah, it was emotionally, now just hearing it, it was sweet, and the way Barry delivered it. I love Barry, so yeah, it's interesting to hear.
Yeah, it was perfect. I thought it was just perfect. And Patrick, Ted Shackelford was in that scene as Gary Ewing again, and as a viewer, that brought me back to the reading of Jock's Will. He was there for that. It kind of felt like an homage to that almost. Did you feel some kind of nostalgia, sort of getting a reworking of that old dynamic, which really changed the course of the original Dallas and changed Dallas 2.0 as well?
I still can't get over being screwed by my mother. Gave away half the ranch? Really? From the grave? Yeah. Well, I think our show, whether accidentally or on purpose, was a constant recircling of relationships, themes, characters that keep coming back in, because you know, and this beautiful room full of people is the reason, you know, because it rings a bell, and it's really entertaining to later on have that same tone rung again, you know, and recall, you know, memories and relationships and everything, and that was the brilliance, I think, of the concept of Dallas. And that's why we did the reboot, because Cynthia Sidrick got it.
Yes, she did.
She understood what the dynamic was. And it was the only writer over the years, the 20 years that we were off the air, that really understood it. They all went for, you know, the cliche, and she went for the underbelly of what was really important, what drove the characters to do what they did. So yeah, those were moments where you go, oh my God, it's happening again. Because that's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that karma where you just go, really, again? I've got to deal with this? Yeah, you have to deal with it until you get over it. And it was a wonderful 3 years to do that show with those things being done once again.
It was a great 3 years. Did Cynthia consult you guys, because she knew the characters better than anyone? Did she say, you know, we're thinking of doing this, would he do this, would she say this, what do you think?
The only thing that I told her, and they didn't know it the same way they didn't know that there wasn't a graveyard
yes.
to go to, was that, you know, her edict was not to drill on Southfork. And so this whole thing that ended up being done was John Ross, you know, drilling on Southfork. And they didn't know. And I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of the show, but it had been drilled in over a certain number of episodes.
It was a big thing.
This is a ranch, it's not a thing, and whatever the field was, Ewing 23 or something like that, is never to be exploited. And then all of a sudden they went, well, we'll do it this way.
Yeah.
And I said, no, you don't understand. Go back and study, because I think that she said no.
Because the fans will remember. They'll write letters.
And so they did. Yeah, that's why they're good at what they did. They went back and made it, you know, a different way of drilling on Southfork and getting it done. But, you know, I never interfere with the script writing of a success, because I would screw it up.
But in this case, there was nothing they needed to know. And,
yeah, it was just a fact.
Yeah.
There wasn't a personal desire to, I want Bobby to do this. I want Bobby to stay on the air.
So after JR passed, it really did set up a dynamic with you guys against each other. Did you, tell us about filming the scenes when you actually exchanged words but also exchanged fists. What was it like behind the scenes when it was that day?
It was so fun. I mean, honestly, Josh is a great acting partner, a great guy. We had known each other for a long time before we both got cast on the show. There was some history there. I was super excited to be joining the show, not only be joining the show, but to be working with you, Josh. I do remember one particular incident, though, when when I was grabbing you by the lapels and jamming up against the bar.
Yeah, at the pool.
We had one, our director at the time was like, he had a bad experience with another actor with some like physical scenes, and he like got really upset that he thought we were going like too hard at each other. And we were like, no, we're good. We'll take it down a notch. Sorry,
We're super comfortable with each other, and also, it was an intense scene where you had I'm sitting at the bar with Mama, and she walks away, and you had just gotten a message about.
I don't remember. You probably remember better than me.
You had just gotten a message that I had. Anyways, you like charged out of the house and grabbed it. Boom! He smashed me into the wooden bar that brought the ball.
Wow!
I thought it was great, but our director thought, he thought that it was too rough, and we totally trusted each other, so we were fine. But we understand that. We understand that we don't want anyone to get hurt, right? Because not in a scene with him, but I had a fight scene with this other actor. I think it was in maybe season 2. We were out in the fields, and take one.
Did you hit somebody?
No, he hit me. In fights, you kind of know that you don't need to be right up in the person's face when you swing to the camera, and it looks like you'd be 5 feet away. And take one, I just got thought. My lip, and we kept going, and they were like, cut, that was great. And I'm like, yes, that's who? It was busted, but anyways, yeah, we had so much fun together, and there was just, we were comfortable with each other no matter what the scene called for. But it always worked.
Yeah. Linda, JR was evil, but do you think he really would have left his alcoholic brother Gary a bottle of scotch?
Yes.
I was hoping you'd say that. Why not, right? All right, so that was bad, but really nothing compared to JR's masterpiece, setting Cliff Barnes up as his killer. And this is the last clip that we're going to look at from TNT's Dallas.
What have you done, Pamela?
I've waited for this moment for a long time, Cliff.
What moment would that be?
The moment our feud is over.
I've just got back from Zurich, Uncle Cliff. I saw Karina and David Gordon. Remember them? The couple you've been paying off not to tell me my mother was dead? So I wouldn't inherit her third in your company? Well, why don't you welcome me to the board, Uncle Cliff? Because I'm now 1/3 owner of Barnes Global.
So am I. Along with your daughter.
John Ross and I are married. With our combined shares, you are now the minority shareholder in your own company.
Which gives our family control of Barnes Global and Ewing Energies again.
Oh, Pamela. You have just made the most grievous error of your young life.
I spoke to Roy Vickers. You knew people were on that rig. You knew I was on that rig!
Roy Vickers is a liar! What the hell's going on?
You are under arrest, Cliff. JR's body was exhumed in Dallas. 2 slugs were found in his chest cavity, which match a gun registered to you. The Mexican ME's report about a Saturday night special proved to be false.
Dallas PD found that gun in your car several hours ago.
What gun?
A CZ 75 9mm.
No, that gun was stolen out of my locker at the shooting range weeks before JR got killed.
J.R. Ewing's belt buckle, taken the night of the murder, was found in your safety deposit box. The log to your personal jet establishes that you were in Nuevo Laredo the night of the shooting.
Okay, I was in Mexico, but I was in Cabo. Wasn't in Nuevo Laredo. Somebody moved my plane.
The evidence is irrefutable, Senor Barnes.
No. Can't you see that this is a frame-up? Can't you see that the Ewings are behind us? They're trying to dupe you into thinking that I killed JR. Well, no. They're trying to he's trying to frame me from the grave. I didn't kill JR. I didn't kill JR. I didn't kill JR. I didn't kill JR. I did not kill JR.
Let's hear it for Ken. Would JR have been that evil to set Cliff Barnes up for his own murder? Of course. Absolutely. We talk a lot about how amazing Larry was, but Ken was an incredible actor, and they helped each other. I want to ask you guys about Ken. Tell me something about him we might not know, something special, favorite memory, anything at all about Ken Kercheval.
I loved Kenny, as we all did, but the interesting thing about Kenny was that he lived an entirely different life, different from all of us. He had a farm, a corn farm in Indiana, and he collected old cars, and he was an artist, and he had this other life that was so fascinating to me. And I'll never forget it. Early on, I had a little cast party at my home, and I served some kind of cornbread muffin cake thing with corn kernels in it that you chop off the top. And Ken was such a good cook that he, that day, invited me, said, please come I want you to teach me how to make those muffins. And I mean, to hear, such an impeccable actor. And all the scenes that we had together were extraordinary.
Yes.
He was focused.
What an arc you two had.
He was magical. So then to know this other side, when he and I were sharing recipes with corn in them, and he had this farm, a beautiful farm in Indiana. So those were the things that I loved about him. He had a full, rich, full life.
Not a Hollywood guy.
No.
He didn't want that. He just wanted to act.
No, he was wonderful.
Patrick.
Well, everything Linda said is true, and it's an amazing compilation of character traits that he had that allowed him to do that. My wife wanted to give me a piece of art as a birthday present. So she didn't call, Sotheby's and all these other places. She called Kenny. And she said, I want to get a piece of art for Patrick. And so next thing you knew, she got all of these choices in the mail, which she picked one. And then he did all the research and purchased it, and then she bought it from him. Then he took it and had it all refurbished and renovated and reframed. And that was my birthday present. From my ranch in Oregon, there was an old homestead there, and this dilapidated, rusted out wood stove from the 1800s was in there. And I thought, this would be great in the kitchen of the main house. Who did I call? I called Kenny. I said, Kenny, how do I get this done? Next thing I knew, a truck was at my house in Oregon, picked up the stove, took it to a place in Portland, Northern Oregon, had it completely rebuilt, switched it into propane so that it could be used as an actual stove, couldn't use the oven, and then shipped back to me, and that was Kenny. If anything you needed doing, he knew the right people, he knew the artistic element involved in getting it done correctly.
Yeah.
And he collected everything, including wives. So every once in a while, his investments didn't turn out. But even that, did not dissuade him, from who he was. And he was the most legitimate person in the world. He and Larry were a perfect match because they would take chances with their acting that most other actors won't take. Because they just, they think it's too over the top. And many times it is over the top, but if you're doing it right, it works.
Like this?
Like that. Or just ask, Christopher Walken. Just ask, Willem Dafoe. There are people who can carry that off. And it's not everybody. If everybody tried it, they'd be laughed off the screen.
Yeah.
But Kenny was that kind of person.
And Larry as well.
We were blessed to have him for the first incarnation and then to come back on the show.
Yeah. Well, you guys, he played both of your father-in-laws because you both married Pamela Barnes on the show. So we're going to see those clips tomorrow. Ken Kercheval, tell me what you remember about him, what you loved about him.
Well, it's really interesting and cool to hear Patrick's stories about Ken because I didn't really know much about Ken at all, his life, off set. He was an interesting guy. He would definitely make some really interesting choices in his acting, that's for sure. So he kept you on your toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed. He would catch me off guard, actually. His intensity, and he would like go from, hey, how you doing? Come in, and then they'd say action, and he'd just be like, whoa. And it was impressive. He would come in and just like, bam, he was on. And it was fun because you didn't exactly know what you were going to get. It gave you a lot to play off of.
Yeah. David, how much time do we have left?
We're at the mark right now.
Okay, all right. So one last question. So it ended with a kaboom, but in my mind, Christopher did not die in the car explosion. We would have found out something because he's still with us. He's got to be with us. So had the series continued to a fourth year, in your minds, what would you have liked to have seen happen that wasn't touched on yet? Or if you would be able to give it a proper, final stamp? Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. I have new new possibilities here. I think Sue Ellen ran off with Ian McShane and went to London.
Oh, right. She got a new love interest. Yeah.
Because what happened was that after the shower scene, the famous shower scene, they didn't want to get rid of the original cast. They didn't want to do anything like that. So Sue Ellen couldn't die, and she had to go do something else. So it was very easy because she was very notorious for having many men in her life, which was so much fun. I can't tell you. I was never bored. Anyway, so that was what they had to do. They had to figure out a way how we're going to get rid of her and keep it interesting and all that stuff. I thought it was okay. I mean, I loved Ian, but it was like, could have been a little bit, to me, better.
Well, maybe she's in Austin as governor of the state of Texas.
She could be, just come right back.
I think she ran again. She's the governor.
Cute Texan.
We could use your governor, I think, in Texas right now. Patrick, Ann and Bobby were having some problems there at the end. Did they make it?
Yeah, they made it, and also I just think they would have pursued the conflict that Bobby had with John Ross, being half owner of Southfork. I think that was an unresolved issue. That the character of Bobby, A, did not really forgive Miss Ellie for it, and B, wanted to reclaim what he thought was his birthright. So I think that would have been what Cynthia would have mined as a future thing. If the explosion and all that happened, then who did it and why, and what would Bobby's reaction be to somebody trying to kill his son? That would have been another aspect that he would have pursued very vigorously, and probably skirting morality and law to get it done. I think those would have been
as his brother would have done as well. John Ross, what would his arc have been into the future, 2013 and beyond?
You know, they into season 3, they were going to bring in John Ross's sister.
That's right.
Who was going to be, I think, this wild card of like, who is this girl? And she was going to come in, and I think the idea was that she and I were going to team up, you know, because I'm always trying to figure out who can I play ball with and then screw them over, right? I need their help to get what I want and see you later, right? I think that was going to be an interesting dynamic. And I think that he would have not, I think that he was still going to be around. I think it was the big, oh my God, they killed him. And he actually was, you know, like around the corner of the cell phone, oh my car just
for sure.
Which would have, you know, and I think that John Ross would have continued to have problems with everybody, right? Like it just, the never-ending pursuit of power and the legacy, birthright, and all that stuff.
Well, Jesse, you know, Christopher's mom, she was also in that horrible explosion, ended up mummified, disappeared, came back as another person, and then ultimately we found out what happened. So that's probably not what happened to Christopher. What happened to Christopher in your mind?
Honestly, I have no idea. You know, I can't really speak to storyline.
Give him a happily ever after.
Future storylines. What I can say is I kind of liked it when the Ewings, you know, they were at odds, but then when there was an outside force coming to threaten the family, they came together to fight that force.
Yeah.
You know, and that was always, I felt like one of the balancing acts of the show. So I mean, there were so many characters to service on in an ensemble show like this, and there was a lot of new characters coming in, and you know, again, it's just the balance of finding out, you know, how many new characters do we need to bring in, you know, what storylines are people like most connected to? I think people were most connected to the internal storylines of the family. And I think moving forward, it was important to service those storylines kind of like first. Yeah.
Well, tonight the Ewings will be back at Southfork, and we will as well. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if some fights break out or something ends up in the pool.
Thanks, guys.
There's one last thing I want to show since I brought this from LA. This was the first episode, and I got to be there with everybody. This was the filming of the first wedding. And at some point I would love for you guys to sign this for me, just so I can hang it in my wall as a memory. And there's Larry in the center. Yeah. This is so fun, guys. I'm so glad you're here.